everyone. I think that if I look at people's faces, that I just saw you in another room with Mr. Hunter with bringing math robotics into elementary. I'll talk a little bit about that. You might notice that we have one of the same slides. That's purely coincidence. So here I am. So that's me. And my name's Ciardelli, and that's the school I currently teach at. I teach at George L. Armstrong on the mountain. My voyage with coding and STEM, it pretty much started when I was a kid. I love Formula One racing, so I was pretty much watching it when I started late elementary school. And then there's lots of science in there with aerodynamics and with downforce. Like even right now, we're doing qualifying in Singapore. I'm like, oh, missing it, but I'll watch it when I get home. So looking back on it, that had a big influence on why I'm really into this stuff. And I do have a coding programming background, but nothing really extensive. So there's definitely better programmers walking around than me. Probably some of them are students at this school. When I became a teacher, I like math and science were my kind of like what I love to do the most. That one year I said, okay, I'm gonna try teaching coding. Now this is 10 years ago, before it was ever in the curriculum. And I just said, okay, I'll do an hour of code. And then after the hour, I thought, let's try a little bit more. And I just kept going and going. And I kind of thought more schools were doing it, but at that time they weren't. So the school board contacted me, and like, what are you doing? And I said, this is what I'm trying. And I'm like, oh. Down the road, they kind of did like matchmaking with myself and the team, because the goal was to bring elementary robotics from what we're doing here with 2056 into the elementary schools. And that's the first time I met anybody else on the team, and that's the first time I met Mr. Hunter, and he was very generous with his time. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was kind of asking questions probably during the worst time, because it was build season. So they were testing the robot, and I'm walking in there on a Saturday, and I'm trying like, hey, can I ask you a question? And it's like, I didn't know, but he's very generous with his time, but that like probably more so outside of build season. But he always answers questions, and he was very, very welcoming. And even to this day, when I email him a question, he responds. So it's really a great thing we have going on our board if we can kind of bring it back. So robotics teams build mentoring relationships that helps to transition to high school, that build excitement for STEM. Okay, it leverages the knowledge and skills of students. It develops the leadership skills in mentors. That develops a habit of giving back to the community. One of the first things I learned in doing a robotics team is that, and Mr. Hunter said this, it's not just about robots. So we're trying to get people involved who have like backgrounds in photography, video, web design, lots of literacy and numeracy that's involved. And I think one of the hardest things is to break the stigma that all we're doing is building a robot in science and technology, which of course that's a very important part of it, but there's a lot going on. At Armstrong, this is the slide that we both had, because we've presented together in the past. So demonstrate what a candidate could bring to the role. All these transferable skills from a robotics team that some relate to science and technology and some don't. So like time management, leadership, public speaking. For example, I remember at our competition, we had judging reps, so they have to work on their presentation about how do you present the robot to a judge, because we were trying to go for the judges award, which we won. Research and motivation, listening, collaboration, problem solving, which came up in Mr. Hunter's presentation. Desire to learn. Kids were, I remember on my team, close to the competition, I didn't tell the kids they had to show up, but they kept coming every single break, right? Sometimes not even eating, or I had to tell them, okay, no, go over there and eat for about 5 minutes, and then come over here. But they just kept showing up, probably a week or two before the competition, both breaks. But I was there both breaks too, eating on top of the robot. Okay. This is the hard part, trying to tell kids that there are non-robot rules. So marketing, graphic design, like web design, fundraising. In elementary, you'd be surprised how easy it is to fundraise. I always suggest going to your principal. Parents are very supportive. Last year, when I got a new principal at Armstrong, and I just said to her, I'm like, I need game pieces for robotics. How much does it cost? I'm like, I don't remember, it was like $300. No problem. Okay, that was easy. Then I said to her, okay, I need shirts, because I'm trying to bring it back. I had no shirts from last time before the pandemic. So I sized all the kids up, and I got a quote. It was over $700. And I said to myself, was she gonna say no? What's the big deal? So I asked, I said, okay, I sized the kids up, I wanna get some extra. It's like $730. So I'm just waiting for her to say, like, you gotta bring the price down. And she said, okay, no problem. I ran for the door, thank you, and the shirts came in. There is a story about the shirts that relates to non-robotic roles. This logo is what we went with. You're going to see the student in one of the slides at the competition. She was responsible for the website, which is not a popular role since after the pandemic, but she told me one day, she's like, my mom draws well, I think she could help us with a logo. I didn't even give it much thought. I'm like, oh, that's nice, honey. Like, okay, and then she came back the next day with that, and that was our logo, the very next day. And I think that shows that, first of all, parent involvement with robotics is important, and it's an easy sell. Parents want to be involved with it, and as soon as they find out that there's a team, usually school council is very supportive. My principal's pretty good at finding money because she used to work in the system. So that's probably the first avenue I would go to get money, even before you try going for sponsorship. Okay? Now, speaking about the competition, this was the last competition we had. So the young lady in the middle is the one whose mom designed the logo. These pictures are, I should say, were just, they were taken by the board. Like, I don't take pictures myself, and this is the ones I'm using. So that's the Winona team. They won, and I had them talk to our team just to kind of present the robot to each other. And then that's us there. We placed second, and we had 2 awards. We had the STEM Research Award and the Judges Award. And it was a pretty proud moment, because the kids worked so hard, and we had about 5 or 6 kids at the competition, and we left behind 10 because of capacity limits at McMaster. We couldn't bring all the students. So it was looking very good, and then when the pandemic hit, which is probably not a surprise, the robotics in elementary needs to come back, and hopefully it does. If not this year, then hopefully next year. We were such on a roll that we even developed things for the kids. Now, these are all the roles we had. And I know this is tiny print, right? But we were writing all of this down to make the team better. And I'll tell you what I mean in a second. So these are all the roles, like promotions, webmaster, journalist, robot testers and builders, videographer, robot drivers, programmers. We had the times where they were going to be busy the most. So the robot testers were going to be busy in February and March. The promotions, probably earlier in the year, right? So, and then we made a code of conduct because we're trying to tell the kids, like I remember that they had to promote the team, and they would go into a classroom, they're just kind of standing there and slouching, and I don't know if they were chewing gum, but they might as well have been. And I said, no, you're representing the team. Okay, you wear the shirt, you go in there, you speak like it's a job presentation. So we're trying to teach them these skills about, and that's why we had the code of conduct. I know it's small type, but represent the team. Share your knowledge of STEM. Work towards your strengths by taking risks, right? And sportsmanship. And we're teaching them all those skills about how, like at the competition, we designed buttons because that's what they did here. And so we borrowed the button maker. We had someone go around, give out buttons. We had someone go up to the superintendent and talk to them. But the superintendent wasn't even expecting it. And I told them, okay, you have to stand in a certain way. You're representing the team. And little by little, they started to understand that it wasn't just about me being strict. It's about how you act in certain situations. And the kids started to understand that. And we had all this ready. And then since the pandemic, I did build a robot last year with the kids. I couldn't bring it because I haven't touched the robot since the spring. And I think when I left it in the school, it got a little bit bumped when they were moving furniture. So I looked at it yesterday and I'm like, okay, it's gonna take me a while to readjust it to make sure that it's working. So I didn't bring it knowing that there's probably other Vex robots around. But it was basically a slingshot that we had to build. It's like the robot name was LeBron because it was like almost playing basketball. It had to like fire a ball into a big thing in the middle. That was the game last year. And as soon as the ball goes over and into that, the kids they were pretty excited. Last time I presented at this conference, okay, I think that's the end of my slide deck, and there's a reason. I came with somebody from Peel School Board, and she presented with me, and she said, you know what, you gotta take a chance, nobody wants to hear you talk. You're supposed to disagree. But bring the stuff that you use with the kids and let them try it. And every time I present, there's usually one young person in there that probably appreciates that. So, and that's, when we're walking around, perfectly happy to answer any questions about VEX robots, but I brought some of the things that I use with kids. And I have to say that as an elementary school teacher, you have to be good at a lot of things. And when I think of some of the things I have to do, it's not that I don't enjoy them, but my favorite moment of the week or of the day is when I'm sitting with a kid and they're trying to figure something out, or they build something with the circuits. And their face lights up when they finally got it going right, and you can see them problem solving, and they don't even look at the time. And then the time's up, and you're like, oh, right. It's just such a moment when you're with the kids and that happens. So my favorite thing to do is, I wish it was only 3 or 4, but to work with 3 or 4 kids on some of the things that I brought. Now, last night I tested everything out so it all works, because one time a few things kind of pooched. So I'll tell you a little bit about them. So some of them are programming and some of them are very little to no programming. So these are fantastic. So there's snap circuits that you can probably get at Mastermind Toys. They are a little bit expensive. So this is alternative energy. So I always suggest to the kids with these circuit boxes that they actually build something simple, because the temptation is to build something that's complicated, right? Because there's instructions in there. Why not build something that looks very complicated? But they get more excitement if they build, like one of my favorite projects on that one is that's just a house with a light, like the light on the ceiling, right? So the alternative energy kit, there's like wind power, there's solar power, but there's a bunch of kits that they have. One of them is coding, but I don't have it. And then there's you could buy kits that are with like less than 100 pieces. And but for these kits here, there's no coding involved, but it gives the kids experience with the electrical that's involved with robotics, right? That one there, okay, that's interesting. So the board gave me those because they closed the resource center. They just appeared at my school, right? So they said, you take them because you'll use them. I'm like, yep, I'll take them. So they're called Little Bits, and I guess they closed the media center, or I don't know what happened, but I took them, right? Oh, this is our robotics timelines. That's up there. If you want to take a look, or code of conduct. So in here, there's extra batteries, and then it's similar in fact that there's no coding involved, but it's like circuitry, and then one of them is a music one. I think it's that one. It relates to music. Right, so, but they're very easy. These are actually probably easier to build a circuit than those ones are. So, I believe they're originally bought because circuits is grade 6, but I personally think circuits should be every year, but that's me. So, anyone's welcome to go in here and fiddle with these. This is a snap circuit house kit. So they make one that it goes up like a house, and then you could do things. I do suggest the easier projects first, just like the light and the fan on the ceiling. But there's like house alarm and different things. That's a very popular one that the kids like. The only drawback with these is that sometimes it's very easy for pieces to go missing. So I actually don't keep them at school, I keep them at home. Like everything here I bought except for that. So I bring one kit at a time, I make sure I know who's using it. Whereas before I wasn't doing that, and I have a kit that's like pieces go missing. But some of the pieces that are in here we notice are the same with the pieces that are in there. So for example, like the conductor snaps together, and it all snaps together like a button, right? So it's really easy to use. So the focus is more learning about electronics and not trying to complicate the student with wiring or anything like that, because there's probably things for that too. The last one, well, there's 2 little things here. So this is awesome robotics projects for kids. I did check the curriculum, so for robotics, the new science curriculum, and I have to say, I probably think they're gonna change it already. Like, not that I've heard anything. There's not a whole lot in there, so it's very vague. But anyway, so these are projects, most of them, in because we don't have robotics kits in schools, or a lot of I do, but do I have enough for one class of 25 to 30 kids? No. So some of these little experiments are not, you don't need a kit for, right? So that's something I'm starting to use, because I just bought this book in the spring. Now, this one here is an MBOT. The only bad thing about this is you can only build it once, because the screws start to strip, so the temptation is, well, take it apart so the kids can put it back together. Don't do that, because the screws will start to strip, and then eventually it doesn't come together as well as it's supposed to. The emphasis more on this one is probably more programming. Now, if you have a phone, you can download an app. I have it on my phone. You can drive this around with the phone, and with the app, it goes through modules on how you can program with this. So besides the kids noticing it looks like a happy face, that's the distance sensor. I think that's the color sensor, so that it could drive, like there's a map that comes with it, that it tracks the color, and then it drives according to the color, right? There's other sensors in the box that you can add to it, right? And of course there's the wheel. So it's highly programmable. And then some of the kids just like to, there's like, I don't prefer this, but to start it's fine. On the app, you can just drive with no programming at all, right? So if you have the app, it's easy to download and it's easy to get started. You just have to connect with it with Bluetooth. Okay, and I'll connect to it as well. The other thing I'll show my principal, and the last thing. Now this thing is brand new. No one's ever used it. So I only have 2 of these at home. One box is about $70 to $80. So I have 3 of them, and this is a brand new one, right? So for this one, if you have a computer, okay, which I do right here, obviously, if you go to microbit.org, right? This is kind of where I get kids started with programming. So it's very easy. And where's the projects? Okay, right here, right? And it starts out very easy. Oh, let's go there. Okay, somewhere here, where like little bits of it light up, but there is like you could do a heart monitor. It could do like a countdown, right? It has like something you can shake it, and then it has different responses. There's 2 buttons on it. So the nice thing about it is that if you don't actually have a microbit, you don't actually need one, because there's a virtual microbit on here.
And I just noticed if you don't have a computer, there's when you went further down, it says tablet and yeah, if you go further down there,
Yeah.
mobile and tablet apps. Because I don't have a computer, so
Yeah. So I haven't used it on tablet,
yeah.
but you can, because it does connect with Bluetooth,
Yeah, okay.
right? If you use Scratch, it's the same type of block programming, which I think most elementary students that's pretty much what works for them. It works with Swift Playgrounds, which is probably the step after Scratch. I'm just trying to find the project thing there. I think it's one of these. Oh no. Is it here? There we go. So it has like, this is where kids start, and they can practically do it on their own. Now, like I was saying, you can take, there's a virtual, right? So there's a virtual one. So if you don't actually have the microbit, you can program here, and then the virtual microbit is here, right? But obviously, if you actually have the microbit, it does provide a little bit more excitement. So with that, when I was presenting with my friend with Peel, they're like, just let them use the stuff. And actually, the last time I did this in 2019, it actually worked out better than I thought. I have a little bit of let go. I don't want to let go, but I am. So I'm definitely around. I'll probably be with the microbit first to see if I can get it working. If you notice the box, because I know we have one young man here, but it does say that everything we're doing is from 8 to 108. So there you go. Everybody's in between those ages. So you can dig into here. Sometimes with these ones too, because like I'm doing alternative energy, but then also there's light and sound. When you're doing a light and sound unit, which I forgot what I think it's like grade before, or does it show up more than once? So some of the stuff that it seems like it's only one strand, but really there's a lot to it.
Mhm.
So are there any questions before we wander and dig in? You get the pick first. What school are you from?
Olaf.
Our Lady of Fatima, it's in Grimsby.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, I'm not familiar with the Niagara board, okay, so you get first choice, whatever you wanna do.
I think that one.
What, microbit?
Yeah.
Oh, go for it, okay, so, if audio round, or if anybody wants to ask a question, but feel free to dig into the box, like right now it's 10:30, so you definitely have a half hour to play with toys.